I would like to welcome our listeners to our next episode of our MSc podcast. Today we're talking with Pier-Paolo Dipaola, former BNP employee, and he held several managerial positions there and at other companies, and is an alumni of INSEAD. I would like to welcome you to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Lukas.
So let's just start. Let's go chronological through your career. You had some very unusual beginnings for a banking executive, studying actually industrial chemistry in Turin. So how did that come to be?
Well, I very much liked chemistry when I was in high school. I very much enjoyed studying chemistry when I was in university. But then I wondered, what does a chemist do in life? And so it was something very useful for me to answer to this question, and were my internships. So I went working one summer in Greece on a nitrogen fertilizers plant, and then the following year went working for a pharma company in Basel. And there I realized that was not at all what I wanted to do. Wasn't interesting me really. I couldn't project myself in those kind of jobs, and so I started to talk to some friends that seemed to have the were senior to me, and they seemed to enjoy their career and to do interesting things. And all these guys were working in marketing or sales. And so I said, oh, maybe this is something that I would like to do. And at that point in time, I did two things. One was to change all the electives in my university program. I took electives in economics or law or marketing. All I could was outside of the chemistry environment. And then I went to L'Oréal to write a thesis on the interactions between research and development, production, and marketing. And that has been a good way for me as well to step into reality, right? And then when I graduated, I had a bunch of job offers to join chemical companies that I turned down. And I went knocking on a few doors of marketing that were supposed to have to be good training grounds for marketing professionals. And so I started working for a company that now belongs to Kimberly-Clark, doing single usage paper products.
Mm-hmm.
And that as a product manager, and that has been my entry in the corporate world, has been my entry point in the marketing sphere.
All right. So and that's somewhat different from like other people that just right out of college they know, okay, I want to go into finance, or even in college already know they just want to do finance. So how did that your path prove to be helpful during your career, like your special path with switching, studying something else, and then switching over to sales?
Well, I, I know many other people that have the same kind of pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not believe that there is a direct correlation between the studies you do and what you do in life.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the fact that I started in one direction and then I went into another one was very important, very helpful, because it is the first time I made a fact-based conscious decision, right? And I think that when you run a business, when you manage a team, when you make choices for your company, this is what you have to do. So I think it has been uh, extremely positive, and yeah, and I still enjoyed my chemistry years and my scientific studies.
So, and maybe like a little link to that. So, last question of that blog. Do you ever wonder what your life would have looked like if you would have stuck to chemistry, or is that something that has never like crossed your mind because you're just happy with the course of action?
Never crossed my mind.
All right. Well, in that case, let's move on to our second question. So, as we've already mentioned in the introduction earlier, you did an MBA at INSEAD in marketing and strategy. And this is actually regarded as one of the best MBA programs in the world nowadays, and probably from what I've heard also back then. So, what are some of the most significant things you've learned there during your time?
Yeah, when I started working, I was happy because I could switch from the chemistry world to the corporate and marketing world, but at the same time, I was very much of a self-made professional, and I didn't know how the corporate world was working. I knew nothing about finance. I knew nothing about HR. I knew nothing about, in a structured manner, about marketing or strategy or whatever. So it was my goal really was to complete my education, right? And I think this is a goal that has certainly been achieved, because it has been extremely useful, right? You study topics that are very relevant, like the finance and marketing, just to mention two, but you also have a number of soft topics that are very important, like organizational behavior, negotiation strategy, and these are also very useful, very relevant. I've thought back of I learned during my studies many times during my professional life. But I also learned how to party, because that's a very
important, yeah.
that's a very important side, and we had great fun, generally speaking. We were with wonderful people, and I think that learning from other people, what other people can tell you and can bring you, is really one of the other important things that I got at INSEAD.
And you just mentioned other people, so who are like the most interesting people you met during your time at INSEAD?
All
of them. Okay, well.
No, I would say very many, because I think INSEAD definitely selects people that are different, not only because they're bright, not only because they can have good grades or less good grades, but because they have interesting and different backgrounds. So I had fellow students. There was a Canadian girl, Olympic champion of canoeing. There was a violinist from the Vienna Symphonic Orchestra. I was sharing the house with a gentleman by the name of William Hague, who has been foreign minister of the UK. And then there are people who have become very famous afterwards. There was a girl that was in my close working group, who has become a writer. You have a bunch of people who have become very big names in the investment banking world, or people who have become entrepreneurs. So indeed, I would say important and good selection up front, and then good performance afterwards. But maybe one last thing that I think is important about INSEAD is that the time to discover what is good for you, and maybe to accept that maybe professional life is not the most important thing, Uh, I have an Israeli colleague who is a guide in Tel Aviv. He enjoys it enormously. So I think there is a lot of opportunity to do soul searching and to make the right choices in life and for the long term. And these both as an individual and as a manager. And for instance, as a manager, I think there are many questions about sustainability, about long term, about corporates being good citizens that are raised at INSEAD. I think these are the really important question for managers today and will be more and more for the years to come.
So you could definitely say that you would recommend INSEAD for
Yeah,
as a school. Okay,
sure.
amazing. So okay, moving on. So couple of years later in time, in 1988, you joined BNP Paribas, which is, as most of our listeners probably know, a highly diversified financial group slash bank. So could you describe what are the main activities of BNP Paribas, and how is the bank organized, like in general?
Yeah. Financial services are very complex and interesting environment, right? And you can have in this environment all sorts of organizations, small organizations, large ones. You have you can target different types of clientele, do different kind of businesses. And for instance, you can think of an IFA as somebody who works alone, primarily catering to affluent clients about advising them on their investments. You can have large organizations like Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs that work on the corporate investment banking side, global organization. You have companies like Amex. They issue credit cards. That is all they do. They do it well globally. You have players like PayPal. They manage payments across the globe, very technology oriented. So you really see many activities and many shades of possible businesses that develop in the financial services industry. Now, if you take large groups like BNP Paribas, Santander, General, Deutsche, Citi, JP Morgan, these guys compete pretty much in all the segments, right? Or in many of the segments. And if you think of how they are organized, you need to look at different dimensions to see how their organization is built. First of all, it is driven by macro client segments. So do they cater to retail clients or to corporate clients? Then what is their distribution model? Do they do B2C, B2B, B2B2C? This is very important and very segmenting itself. Then what are the activities and what are the countries where they operate, right? And now if you look at BNP today's organization, they are organized around three major business units. One, corporate investment banking. They're all B2B businesses, so they address corporate clients, they address institutional clients, they address financial institutions, they do lending, they do equities, they do mergers and acquisitions, all the different activities of the of a CIB. Then you have a second macro business unit, which is called Commercial Personal Banking and Services, where you find You find the bank branches that you see in the streets, right? So the branch banking activity, which is a B2C activity that they operate in not so many countries because it is a tricky one. But they are a major player in France, Italy, Belgium, Poland, Morocco. And through the branches, they cater both to retail and SME clients. And then they have another type of B2C activity, which is a bank called Hello Bank, which is internet banking. So this is the sort of B2C part. Then you have the B2B2C retail part, where again you find a banking activity. They have a business called Bank Nico that provides banking services through tobacco shops. And this has been an acquisition done probably 4 or 5 years ago. They only operated in France, and they are expanding the model in Spain. They have personal finance, which is all the consumer lending activity that they do. This is where BNP Paribas is a European leader. They have Cetelem, Floa Bank, Findomestic, Banco Cetelem. They have a number of brands, but clearly consumer banking is one of the big areas where they operate. They have tough competitors like Santander. They're very strong, and they're very strong in this space. And then you have, always still in the commercial personal banking and services division, you have two B2B businesses. One is for SME and corporates with leasing and factoring services. And then they have a service company called Arval, which is there again, European leader of car fleets. Over 1 million cars on the road every day. So it's big business. And then you have the third business, the third macro business unit, which is called Investment Protection Services, where you have a B2C business, which is wealth management, and wealth management is a joint venture between this business unit and the retail banking business unit, because the idea is to leverage the wealthy client of the retail bank to sell them more sophisticated and more complex and more high value added products.
Okay. Yeah.
You have a B2B business, which is asset management. And then you have Cardif, which is the company with whom I spend most time in the group, which is primarily a B2B2C company, okay, with a bit of B2C in France. And then they have the real estate business, right? So these are the three macro business units and the sub-segments. Now, next to these three business units, you have functions. So the functions, the ones that enable the business units to work, and they exert control, right? So you have CSR, risk, compliance, legal, finance, IT, and operations. Now, what is the objective of this whole thing? Because we're talking about 185,000 people across all these businesses. So it's a lot of efforts, right? And the objective really is to be able to deliver returns and very stable over time, because if you have such a portfolio of activities, One will do always great and one will always lag, right? And so it's like you have an engine with many pistons,
Yes.
and you will have a number of them that in any case will produce the, the, the results that you want, and maybe they will overperform, and this will compensate those that will lag. And maybe the laggards of today will be the winners of tomorrow. So this gives a really lot of stability and reliability to the results of the bank. So this is one. Another objective is to be able to offer to the key customers all products or as many products as possible, to be one-stop shop.
All right.
And to be able to accompany them globally across the world. So I don't know, clients like Volkswagen is for Cardiff is a client with doing business with them in 17 different countries. So and the fact of having a network international presence is very important. But if you have so many countries and so many businesses in so many countries, you need to be consistent. So that is where the functions again come into play. You need to be compliant, which is a dimension more and more important nowadays. And you need to be sustainable for the long term.
All right. Well, and so wrapping this all up, why did you decide to join Cardiff? There were like all those other options. What made Cardiff stand out to you? Why did you end up joining them?
I would say what I've described now is today's organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I joined Cardiff in 1988, Cardiff, which is today a multinational company, 33 countries, 10,000 employees, 1.5 billion of gross operating income. At that time was a company with 300 employees, only French, that was looking to expand outside of France, right? So
Yeah.
I've been recruited as head of sales for Italy. That was the first country where they operated outside of France. And I was offered a great challenge, right, to create a new company. I was 30. 2 years later, I was CEO of the company.
Wow.
I had a lot of freedom, and I had at that time there was I would say the idea that banks could sell insurance was completely new, right? Today they do it everywhere, and in most countries, not in Germany, but in all the, I would say, all the whole of Southern Europe and Central Europe, the banks are the primary distributors of insurance products, and so the idea was to take this model that was working well in France and to deploy it in Italy. And that has been, I thought, was a great opportunity for me. I could hire my team. We still meet together after 40 years.
Wow.
all of us. And it has been a very good success story. Today, Cardiff is 7th, 8th largest life insurance company in Italy.
Wow.
It's quite something, yeah.
Oh, that's definitely amazing. And so to our listeners who might have already checked out, I don't know, your LinkedIn, for example, or something, they might ask themselves or might see that you quickly rose to be the director of joint ventures in France, and you actually participated in the establishment of joint ventures for Cardiff also in Thailand, India, and Russia. So how did you manage to come into such an influential position aside from being smart and just doing your work exceptionally well?
Mm. Um, I think that what was interesting at that time was that as the company was a way smaller organization, the focus which is required today on control, compliance, alignment of many stakeholders on what to do was not there. The company was small. There was one desire, which was growth. And so I would say the scope of the whole management team, from the chairman to all others, was to open new businesses and to open new countries. And just as I mentioned earlier, that bank assurance was a new thing for the Italian market in 1988. Bank assurance was a new thing for these countries that you mentioned 10 years later, right? And so then the fact that I was sitting in boards, I would say that is an ancillary consequence. The real driver was the ambition, the will to grow, the fact that we've been in some cases lucky, in other less lucky, to find good partners that were sharing our goals, that wanted to learn, that they understood there was a real business opportunity. And so we created joint companies with them that have been extremely successful. Just to maybe I think the most striking thing is the joint venture in India.
All right.
Where we were partnering with the largest bank in the country, the State Bank of India. The State Bank of India has 25,000 banking branches across country, which is more or less as many as we have in Europe. The insurance company hired 100,000 agents.
Wow.
Which is a massive number. And today is the largest life insurance company in India, and which went public in 2017. Was the largest IPO of the Mumbai Stock Exchange. And it fetched 9 billion euros of valuation, right? Wow. So and this for a company that was not existing in 2000. So I think that if you have the right partner, if you have the right philosophy, if you are good at what you do, then you can do these things, and you could do it at that time. Today, I think everybody has understood that distribution of insurance products is a great business for banks. So I think the opportunities are maybe more limited going forward.
All right, and since you just mentioned India, how would you in a couple of sentences describe how would a company engage in a really successful joint venture in emerging markets such as India, or any other emerging market? Are there some key ingredients that you shouldn't miss, or what would you say?
I think you need to bring something that they couldn't do themselves. I think that is the essence. Today, I would say when we started in India in 2000, I think the whole concept of banking distribution was completely new, and so there were many things that we brought from product simplification to training programs to all the product, all the I would say asset management techniques behind innovative products. It was a lot of things that were not known, right? Today, I think all these things have been more trivial, and probably you play much more on digital, right? So I think what really makes the difference is being able to bring easy plug and play digital solutions that can allow banks to distribute very easily and have easy solutions for their distribution networks and for their customers. And this is probably something where for a traditional bank like BNP is a bit more difficult, while Asian players are probably more agile on the digitalization side.
Okay. Well, and moving on in the timeline, in your timeline of career, in 2009 you made actually a really surprising move, and you went from Cardiff and became BNP Paribas head of Iberia and Latin America in wealth management. So to start off with, because it might be unclear to some of our listeners, could you explain the difference between asset and wealth management?
Yeah, I would say that the asset management is the BNP, the B2B part of wealth management, right? So asset management, you gather funds. It can be from retail clients, it can be from corporate clients, and you manage them according to some guidelines, or you manage them to achieve performance. But then these funds are used by the bankers, by the private bankers, to work with the client in order to serve their needs, right? So if a client is risk prone, then he will be able to invest in asset management products that are maybe riskier but with a better perspective of returns. And if they are more conservative, then they can have a different risk profile. So I would say that these are the two sides of the same coin. But if you speak about client relationship, certainly the wealth management area is very key, because not only you need to understand the risk appetite of all your clients, but you need to understand their tax situation, they need to understand their goals, you need to understand all the intricacies between the personal business and the corporate business. So if you are, for instance, an industrialist, you can be a client of the bank both with your company and with your personal wealth. So you manage the wealth relationship with them. All these you have to take into account. I think the wealth management is a really fascinating business, and your clients are most of the times very, very interesting people that have built their fortune often quickly. I think the new money is probably more interesting than the old money. But new money, you find people in their 40s that have floated the company, they've sold the company, they've made money, and they partly they invest, but then at the same time they are already thinking of a new project, and so it's a lot of fascinating people. Yes.
So, and like regarding that move you made in 2009, how would you say did you develop the expertise to basically make that move to transition to become head of wealth management in those two regions?
I think that while I am a true, I understand very well the all intricacies of insurance business, I wouldn't say the same for wealth management. I've been running teams, and I was in a role where I could be primarily a strategist and a team manager person, but I had with me all the teams who knew technically how that business works. So I was really in a generalist position, and I think that this is something that you can do when you're when the scope of your activity is large enough. So I had teams of course, I had a team in Spain and Portugal, but for Latin America, I had teams in Miami, I had teams in Panama, teams in Brazil, in Argentina, and so I would say they were really those who needed to have the expertise in their specific field. For me, it has been a lot of transformation of the area, a lot of compliance topics. We sold Panama at that point in time. We integrated the Miami activities in the New York compliance system. We closed businesses that seemed too small. So these are the kind of things that I've been doing.
So moving on to question 7, fast forwarding 2 years in your career in 2011, after spending 2 years in wealth management, you moved back to Cardiff again and now became CEO of Continental Europe and subsequently also head of sales of international markets. So how did you manage to hold so many executive positions at a major bank during your career? Do you have like any tips for our listeners, or like most importantly for like current students, if they want to somehow like follow in your footsteps and try to reach, if they want to try to reach something similar to what you've accomplished?
Well, I think that if you want to move, if you want to be able to switch jobs and hopefully grow in your career and have interesting assignments, the fact of being in a large financial services group is very conducive, right? Because you have so many opportunities in terms of type of professions, in terms of geography, in terms of specialization needs that can arise. That the large financial services group is per se a source of opportunity, and you can really have a full career doing different things with relatively fast changes because of the variety of opportunities that it offers. And I would say the other thing is to have a dynamic, to work with a dynamic management that wants to change things, wants to grow, wants to fix problems, but is also ambitious and audacious enough to go for growth strategies, because that is where the opportunities are. No growth, you can have interesting jobs in risk and compliance and IT, but if you want to be in business, you need people that want to drive growth. I think that is key. So large group, good management team. I think that is what I would advise any student to look for.
Like moving on to another topic relating to BNP Cardif, how would you describe the market position of that company?
I would say quite unique, because if you think of insurance companies, you think of the Allianz or AXA or the Zurich or Aegon of this world, you would think of insurance companies that do all sorts of distribution, primarily agents based. They do life and non-life, and manage both the B2B and the B2C aspects. This is not at all Cardif position. Cardif is a company that works through partnerships, that does not have its own distribution network, and distributes uniquely through partnerships. So through other financial institutions or through captive company of car manufacturers, through retailers. So they basically work on training, servicing non-professional salespeople or people that traditionally were not selling insurance products to start distributing insurance products. And this is fairly unique, and is at the same time a weakness and a strength. A weakness because you don't have your own distribution, a strength because you don't have the cost of your own distribution, and you use and you leverage someone else's distribution network to do a cheaper sale. But if you do a cheaper sale, then you can have lower costs as well, which is good for the consumer and which is good for the distributor as well. Now, if you look in terms of ranking, Cardif is today around number 8 or 10 of amongst the European life insurance companies, which is a very honorable position for an insurance company which was originally a captive, and then from a captive company has become a full-fledged market player. And I think this originality is part of the interesting things of working for Cardif, actually.
Okay, so I'm now relating more to your day-to-day job back at Cardiff. How would you describe your day looked like there, just in a couple of words? How did it look like? When did you get up? How long did you need to work every day? Just in general.
Well, for many years I've done 8 through 8. So that was my regular pace, with a lot of traveling involved, because Particularly as a head of Continental Europe, I had 10 countries that were reporting to me. So although I was not traveling every day, but I would be out away from home at least a couple days per week. And I would say the work was really managing up and managing down. So managing up was to negotiate with the head office and with the bank the action plans, share the successes, but also share the difficulties, and how to make them understand both the challenges and where the growth opportunities were, and encouraging the hierarchy and the shareholder to invest when there were good opportunities. And managing down is certainly working with the teams, knowing that my direct reports were all CEOs of organizations, so we're all very senior people in charge of their own businesses, where I should guide them and advise them, and sometimes fight with them, most of the time exciting them, in order to go all in the same direction, for countries that were very different in size, and in market position, right? So I think that was, I would say, the team management part, and that was something that was really the heart of my work, and was the key to success. Yeah.
So, and relating to that, just to summarize it, where do you see the ethics behind working in bank assurance? So,
I think ethics is essential, and more and more. I think you have different levels of ethics. So you have the ethics of a company in society. So what is the role of a company in society, other than making money, right? So you still think it's very important to have a positive impact in what you do, to think of your final clients, to think of the service that you provide, to think of your value added. So I think that is first level of ethics. Then you have your, I would say, more internal as an employer. You do need to be ethical. You need to be fair to your employees. You need to be clear in what you want. You need to be understanding, demanding at the same time, but always to be very clear and transparent. And then I think this is another level. And then you have, I would say, the more literal part of ethics, which is applying the law. You need to apply the law in each country, and you need to apply both the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, which is not always easy. I think if you operate in countries where you have, I would say, Western Europe, or where you have a high level of integrity, which is part of culture, then that is relatively easy. But then when you do business in Asia, for instance, it can be slightly different. We do business in Central Europe, it can be slightly different. So You need to be very careful on what you do, knowing that furthermore compliance has become one of the key dimensions in financial services, and that the BNP Paribas has been punished for misbehavior. It was, what, $7 billion, I think, by the U.S. authorities, and I think this is something which has marked the company in a very big way, like something that, like a sin that you have committed once, but you cannot commit twice, and so you must behave properly, right? So indeed, ethics compliance is very important for BNP Paribas.
All
And I
right.
think for every professional in this field, it must be.
So, and to wrap this part of the podcast up, why would students join Cardiff today? Like, what did you think? What is like special about the company? Or if you would be in their position right now, why would you join Cardiff?
Because I would look for the entrepreneurial spirit, which is still there, and you think his company will have a little bit the best of both worlds. You have a very large financial services group, which gives you stability, gives you possibility to move and to learn a lot of things, but at the same time, it's a company that remains keen on developing and growing. I think that is a very nice combination.
All right. So moving on to the next question, or to the next stop of your career, to put it that way. So could you explain what Care France does, and could you also explain your motivation behind becoming a consultant for them?
Yeah, in France, you have the possibility to conclude your career working outside of the bank for an NGO of your choice, which is what I decided to do. And CARE is a large multinational NGO committed to gender equality, fighting climate impact or limiting the impact of climate change, and intervening in case of emergencies, so case of war, floods, earthquakes, these kind of things. It is an international NGO, and I was interested in. I was interested in what they do. I liked the fact it was international, so I felt that with my experience also of Asian countries and Latin America, I could contribute and fit well. I was very happy because I never realized how important NGOs are in society, and how I would say the social world, what is the weight of NGOs and cooperatives and the social world is in society, and this is another very good organization. Very structured, with very keen on having impact, and I would say open to consider all the potential synergies between market players, like a bank can be, and actors of the social sector, and you do have. These two worlds traditionally ignore each other a little bit. They don't understand how the other is, and there is a mistrust. while in care they really know how to, I would say, how to benefit from both. And it's been, I worked with them for 2.5 years, and I thought it was a great experience. Yes.
All right, and to wrap this entire episode up now, just some general question, a general outlook. So, looking back on your career, would you have done anything at all differently, or would you do it all over again, the same way you did it?
By and large, I would do the same. I think I've been lucky and luckier than many, and I count my blessings.
All right, and so in a couple of words, what defines you as a leader? I mean, during your career, you held many or a lot of leadership positions, so that also goes into my really last questions later on. But yeah, really, what defines you as a leader? What would you say are your really good qualities that you bring to the table?
Listening. I think that is very important. It's something that I enjoy doing, and I think that it helps. It has helped me to carry people along, because I knew what they wanted. I was taking it into account, and this has helped me to build consensus. I think this is the first thing. I've never felt tired. I've always been excited, right?
Okay.
And I think that is something that is very helpful, and that people feel and sense and get enthused. Huh? And third, I would say, play by the rules. Be honest.
So, and last question for today. I mean, we already scratched that topic somehow during the last almost an hour so far. What tips can you give students who want to follow a similar career path that you followed? Is there anything you would like to say to them now? What should they do?
I think you already said almost everything. Maybe one last thing is be true to yourselves. Don't do something because it sounds great. Make sure that it fits you, it fits your personality. Because otherwise somehow it will backfire. And if you want to be a good leader, you have to be a natural. And then I think this is not so easy. I know a couple of very high-ranking managers within the group that I know very well personally, and I've known them over time, and I know that some of them are very nice and gentle people, but they somehow, because of their ambition, and they have become more political, they have become they've taken stronger position than they can humanly assume, and so they just become unbearable. So I think just avoid it. Make sure to understand who you are and what you want to do and the way you want to do it. And I think that is way more important than working for a big name or making a lot of money.
All right, and with those really nice last words, we're going to wrap it up for today. I really want to thank Pierre for talking to us today and answering all those really interesting questions. I hope that you, our listeners, could learn something and use some of the advice that Pierre just gave you for your own career, possibly. And with that, I want to thank you for your attention, and I want to wish you a good rest of your day, and hope to see you again in our next episode. Thank you.